Record. All right, so we're recording. So just to review, what I did was um, I started with one file. I went to image size. I unchecked resample. I typed in my resolution of 300 because that's our normal printing and working resolution. And I figured out how wide my composition is. Now I know my composition is much wider than it is tall, so I'm focused on that. So 10 inches, and I figure I've got 10 of them across. So that's why I made a canvas that is roughly 100 inches wide, 50 inches tall. If you don't remember how to do that, I just went to new and typed it in here in my resolution. And then I'm just dragging out the images from the sort of dock here. And I'm clicking on them with the move tool, which is the top tool, and dragging them into my new file. Now I'm going to close the things that I don't need so I can make this one full screen so you all can see this better. So now what I have in here is I have 22 different layers, and so that's 22 images, right? And I've got to figure out like how to piece them together. Now, if I had pieced them, if I dropped them in order, it would have been really easy to kind of switch between them and move them. But what we have here, and I should probably pull out my layer palette so it's a little bit bigger, is we can grab each of these layers and move them around. So if I grab layer 2 and I'm on my move tool, if I click and drag, and I don't know where it is, so what I might do is I can turn the eyeballs off for everything above it by just clicking and dragging or clicking on one individual image, right? So now I can see layer 2 better. I'll highlight it, and then I'll grab it with my move tool and I'll pull it over here. And I think this is how it was composed. So I have a, like a, what do you call it, a vaulted ceiling with 2 skylights and a fan in the middle, and that's what I photographed. Not the most interesting thing. That's why I'm going to challenge you all to go out and find something that's actually worth your time to photograph, rather than just a boring ceiling in a room. But I needed something for demonstration purposes. All right, so here we go. We got skylight, beginning of the fan. I guess these maybe are in order. There we go. So, all right, I'll double up the fan. And I don't know if I want to keep the ceiling line going and lined up, but if I click on a layer, on a file here, a layer, and I want to move it a small amount, instead of clicking with the move tool, I could just click on it and use the up and down arrows. I don't know if you all can see this with the low resolution of zoom, but if you go up and down or left and right with the arrows, it moves you 1 pixel at a time. If you want to move in larger chunks, you can hold down shift and click, and then it should be moving. Well, that's not doing that. It should be moving 10 pixels at a time, but I swear it doesn't look like it's doing that. Maybe it's something different from this version of Photoshop that I clearly, something's different. Note that because I was using my smartphone, the exposure for each picture is changing, right? So we go from light to dark, but then this one's darker to light, and this is darker. Does that make sense? So if I had my SLR and I was doing this with my SLR, I'd probably just set it on manual exposure, and then everything will line up with the same brightness. But if you put it on auto, it'll do some things like this, which are fine as well. But it's kind of your choice. And if you want it to be kind of more invisible, the separation between the photos, then manual exposure would do that. All right, so this one doesn't belong here. I'm going to just keep going until I find the pieces of the fan. I don't know if I can line up the ceiling with the fan. Ooh, maybe. Yep. And you don't have to be, as you don't, depends on whether you want that or not. If you want to be precise, like this is kind of funny to have 2 poles going up, right? All right, then I get the other part of the fan. And since I'm a little OCD, I guess I'm gonna try and get it to line up here as much as possible. I don't know that I can get any of it to perfectly line up. This is supposed to be a quick demo, so I'm gonna just keep moving. This one's blurry, so that's no fun. Maybe I just get rid of that file. I can drop the edge of the fan in, something like that. And then we've got wall, or ceiling, or whatever. Oh, I made one that was meant to go up here. So if I want to move a bunch of things at once, what I can do is I can click on the layer palette here and highlight all of these images that are that have the eyeball on, and I can just click and drag the whole thing down. Then when I go back here to the one that was a fan blade going up, I'll have room now and I can drop it in. Look at like there. All right, and then, well, that's kind of a duplicate, so I don't need that. And then I have a window, which if I want to drop this to be behind the rest of them, what I could do is I could drag it down in my layer stack. So I'm going to grab this layer 14 and I'll just pull it down to like below layer 1. And now you can see the other ones on top of it. So I kind of like that. And let's see, that one seems unnecessary. That one seems a little unnecessary. That one will give me the corner of the window, so I'll keep that. It gives me the bottom of the fan, so that's good. Maybe it can go below some of the rest of these. And I guess it goes there. I guess I do need this one. Anyway, so I probably took more photos than I need to, but I'm kind of rearranging things as I go here, and it's kind of the overall picture that I was looking to make here. But while I'm in here, I want to show you a few other things that you can do, other than like these are all still in a grid how I photographed them, right? And this curve, I kind of like this curve, but if I didn't want this curve, I could make it a straight line, or I could tip things. I could make adjustments to individual photos. Let me do that first, since this is kind of the darkest photo in here. If I want to make an adjustment to just that photo, well, I guess I should talk about adjustments overall first, right? So most of you are familiar with levels. Pull this. All right, I'm going to get this out of our way. Just lost the levels. Which is, all right. Why am I losing my mind here? Oh, okay, there we go. All right, so it's here. I was just trying to pull it out like this. So if I want to adjust my overall picture, levels is not always the best way to do it, but it is a simple version. So I can brighten my photo by pulling the middle slider to the left. I can darken it by pulling it to the right. We have good contrast, so I'm not going to mess with the other ones. And I could hit auto, and it'll put it where the computer thinks is best. Honestly, I don't like that, so I'm going to throw it away. What I normally do is I work with curves to brighten and darken and add contrast all at the same time. So if you, on a curve, pull up, it brightens, pull down, it darkens. If you pull up to the top right and down on the bottom left, it adds contrast. Let me turn that off and on. You'll be able to see that. Or what you can do is you can grab specific points in your photo, which is what this little finger with up and down arrows lets you do. So if I said, all right, I want this to be brighter, it'll put a point in and pull it up. If I say, okay, I want this to be darker, it'll put a point in darken it. So I'm actually decreasing contrast here, but it would be lightening the fan and darkening the ceiling. All right, so that's the sort of basics of that. But if I want to apply it to only one image, what I can do is to create a, wait, I should make it first. I'm gonna make a curve, and then I'm going to create a clipping mask. And it puts this arrow in. And what that means is it's only going to apply to this photo right below it. So if I go in here and I pull this up, you can see it's only brightening up that one photo, this one here. Now it's also messing up our color quite a bit when I do that. And it's probably maybe not enough. So I could make another one on top of there, although it's probably going to look terrible. Oops, make my curve, say create clipping mask. So I can do 2 clipping masks at once. I don't like the color, so I could just make a hue saturation clipping mask, pull the saturation down. I didn't do the clipping mask part, there we go. Yeah, it's closer, but it's also very blown out. So maybe instead of pulling up the curves drastically, I should be more specific at what I'm doing. I should be pulling up this, but keeping this sky back where it was-ish. Okay, maybe not. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna stop playing with it so much because we don't want to waste too much time here. But what I really want to do next, though, is to show you how to kind of manipulate the individual boxes. So if you wanted them to line up more or less, I suppose, depending on what you want to go with it, you can manipulate your individual images. So I'll just stick with this one that I was on. And what I can do is click on it, of course, and go to edit. Let's see, transform, and maybe click on rotate. So rotate will let me twist it left or right. So instead of having every frame be this perfect box that's aligned, maybe I want this photo to be this way or whatnot. The other thing I can do is edit, transform. I could play with scale. So this is sort of what Dan was asking about, is like photographing closer and further. And I didn't know exactly how to answer it. But if I actually did zoom in when I was photographing, I could make an individual image bigger or smaller by doing edit, transform, scale. Or there's always edit, transform. I guess you could do warp or skew or distort. Distort will actually let you pull one individual corner or each corner completely different. So if you wanted to go crazy, this could be really time consuming. So I'm not saying you need to do this. I'm just saying, like, all right, say I wanted to get things to line up perfectly like that, I could. And with any of these, you just hit return and it locks it in. So there are plenty of rotation and transformation capabilities in here. But it's also, you're making 3 of these in a week. So, you don't need to go crazy with it, but I would say focus on making a good composition to start. Your image editing can be a little bit, less intensive. All right, so when I'm at this point, I guess the next or the final thing I really want to figure out, once I've kind of got things the way I like it, is I need to crop it. So crop tool, you can type in a specific crop if you want, or hit clear and just drag it. Oh, why is it? No, I don't. It thinks I just tried to lock that in. And because I'm recording, it's going to have a heart attack. Okay. Usually the crop tool is really easy, but I think I have overloaded it with resolution. All right, I'm going to stop recording because I think that's probably part of the problem.